Hello, everyone. Dear participants of Scientific Conference, Power, Politics and Social Sciences 100 years after Max Weber, I would like to greet you on behalf of the Faculty of Political Science, University of Banja Luka. As you know, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, we were not able to hold conference live. Nevertheless, we believe this way of work will give the expected results and scientific conference will be successful. Our faculty is relatively new since it was established only 11 years ago, and all of you who participate in the conference contribute to greater reputation of the faculty and its promotion in the country as well as abroad. We are especially proud of our plenary speakers, professors from China, Russia and Sweden. The scientific conference should be offer possible answer to contribute issues regarding public, social and political life, which will be discussed through section for sociology, political science, journalism and communication, and social work. Finally, I would like to greet you once again and wish you the best of luck with your work. Now I'm going to give the floor to the moderator, Ljiljana Stević. Thank you very much.
Dear participants, welcome to our conference. 赵博士、周博士，感谢你们的合作，谢谢你们来。我们现在要用那个英语，所以对不起，我的中文话不是太好。We are going to start, dear participants, we are going to start with a presentation from Professor Zhao Yiren from Xiamen University. His topic is very current topic and very popular now. So we're going to hear something about discourse during the COVID-19, media discourse between the United States and China. Professor Zhao, welcome.
Thank you. Let me set up for this. Bear with me. All right. Okay, so can you see my screen now? Is it?
You can share your screen.
Yes, it's okay.
Yeah, it's on.
It's on.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you very much for having me today. This is a work that Professor Yan Lifeng and I did together. You should be responsible for the depth of framing analysis of the blame game between Chinese and American media in the outbreak of COVID-19. But unfortunately, Professor Yan can't present today because he can't bypass the firewall. As you may already know, that this is one of the crucial mechanisms that systematically block information on the internet in China. It was also the reason that Ms. Zhou, she couldn't join us yesterday for the test run. So to my opinion, it is a shame that every reasonable free will should condemn this mechanism. But since we are here now, so let's just kick it off. Before we start, I would like to show you a video clip about the President of the United States, Trump, saying China. It was made by HuffPost Entertainment, and when it went online on the YouTube, it went viral. By now, it reached almost 18 million views because it was funny and it was entertaining and maybe something else. So let's have a look first. It's a rather short video clip.
Let's say China. China, 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 China. You go over to China, 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 you take China, China, China. I love them. China, 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 China. I have to have my China, 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 because China, 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 China. China, 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 China now, China, China. You know, China, I know China very well. China, China.
Right, this is a shorter video. It's a longer video, but it goes on and on. So I cropped the part of it. Now we have Trump on the one hand keep repeating China in the public. He also said, "I love China" on many occasions. But we all understand that in terms of international relationship, expressing one's emotion that strong may be interpreted in a very different way. By all means, Trump said a lot of things, and he also said he loved the Mexicans, which is ironic because he's attempting to build a wall to stop them to come to America. So saying that he loves China might not count. As we may all aware that China and the US were going through a bumpy and rough period, two countries didn't see eye to eye, especially in time of Trump's administration since the year before the last. In 2018, China and the US collided in a trade war, and it ended up in a very ugly economic conflict. Both sides were wrestling and accusing each other, and the US called China doing unfair trade practices, and China accused the Trump's administration of engaging in protectionism. This year, on 15th January, both sides reached a phase one agreement. That means that they are ceasing fire for now. But arguably, the tension between these two superpowers is still on. And unfortunately, the relationship may go down. It was hit tremendously.
Hello, Professor. Hello?
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, I have to turn off, right?
Should I go on, or could you still see the screen? I see some problems here. No worries,
yes,
I can wait.
You can continue. It was just we informed Professor Zhao that she should turn off her microphone because we
okay.
had. You can continue.
No worry. Where was I? Yes, and unfortunately, the relationship, as I said, may go down because of the coronavirus. The coronavirus disease 2019, also known as COVID-19, was first identified in December.
I'm sorry, I don't heard anything. You others?
There must be a problem. Someone,
we have a problem with possibly VPN by the professor.
Hello, and I am back. So is all the connections still working?
Dear Professor, yes, we can hear you. Please restart your presentation, please, and don't turn on the camera. Just keep us on your voice feed, because I'm afraid your VPN isn't passing too much data.
Okay, should I start from the beginning? Or?
That's up to moderator, please.
You can, Professor, you can start after your video from with Donald Trump. We've seen up to that point, and then the video stopped. Presentation stopped.
Okay. Okay, my apology. Okay, let's see.
Thank you so much.
There. Right. Okay. My apology, everyone. So I will pick up from what we have left here. As we may all aware that China and the US were going through a very rough period. Two countries didn't see eye to eye, especially in time of Trump's administration. In 2018, China and the US collided in a trade war, and they were wrestling and accusing each other. The US called China doing unfair trade practices, and China accused the Trump's administration of engaging in protectionism. This year, on 15th January, China and the US finally reached a phase 1 agreement, ceasing the fire for now, but arguably the tension between these two superpowers is still on. And unfortunately, as I presented before, this relationship may even go down further. It was tremendously hit by the virus, coronavirus disease 2019, also known as COVID-19. It was first identified in December 2019 in Wuhan, China. And this virus, we all know, have heard by its name, and it's notorious destructive. Since by the date of yesterday, 17 September 2020, there are more than 29.8 million cases that have been reported across 188 countries and territories, with more than 941,000 deaths globally. And this pandemic had shocked the US and China both. As to China, on 23rd January 2020, it imposed a lockdown in Wuhan and other cities around it in an effort to quarantine the center of this outbreak. For other cities, there were lockdowns by outdoors restrictions. That means only one person from each household is permitted to go outside for provisions once every 2 days, except for medical reasons or work at pharmacies. Many areas also have implemented what is called the closed management on a community basis. It means in most areas, would only keep one entrance and exit point open for each community. And furthermore, the government also unveiled a health code plan. It is a digital QR code, as this picture shows, that can be generated quickly as an indicator of people's health status. If it's green, you are free to go, but if it's amber or red, then you are alarmed. As to the US, the first American case was reported on January 20th, and the outbreak was officially declared a public health emergency on January 31st. As of September now, there were over 6.6 million cases and 195,000 related deaths in the US. Well, it is no doubt a horrible, horrible crisis. And this is a map of confirmed cases of COVID-19 per 100,000 residents in the US by state and territory. We can see the scale of widespread virus and its severity. And this is a map of confirmed case in mainland China per 100,000 residents by province as of April. So now it's more than that. Along with the rest of the world, both China and America had taken a huge hit by the pandemic. But as we found, instead of putting full attention to medical care and well-being, trying to control this situation, there were loads of news about them blaming each other. One particular incident was Trump tweeted and called coronavirus the China virus, and he stood up for his point in the press conference. To counter that, the Chinese embassy released a follow-up statement saying that whoever attempts to patronize and bully Chinese people in any name will only end up in the ash heap of history. It is indeed a very strong accusation, almost a threat in responding to Trump. And there were many follow-up stories about you should be responsible for this death, you should be responsible for these pandemics, and no, you should be responsible for this. And it went on and on. So the motivation of doing this study was when we sat down, took out our phones and started reading news. There were unavoidable, massive news coverage about US blaming China, China counter-blaming US, the US counter-blaming China, and China do it all over again. So we found that it must be very interesting and terribly intriguing to look into these blame game led by the authorities from both sides and fueled by the media. We'd like to explore and understand, number one, what is happening in media here? What are these disputes that China and the US are confronting? That means we'd like to look into the text of the news stories and categorize them into a number of aspects. From our pilot study, from our primary reading, we extracted 6 aspects that drew most attentions. They are humanitarian aid, transparency of information, medical capacity, origin of virus, dispute of quarantine technique, and public reaction. And the second aspect is, why is this happening in media? That's what we're trying to figure out. We'd like to explore the social, cultural, and /or philosophical reasons behind the media stalemate. From our primary readings and the reviews of these existing literature, we came up with at least 3 hypotheses that need to be examined. Why is this happening in media? Could that be the crucial time of the US election year, so everything is so intense? As Kurt Galbraith have argued that when the government is coming to the end of one election cycle, it took a swing approach towards its foreign policies. It could either go less aggressive or more aggressive. And in Trump's case, it goes more aggressive. Or could that be an unavoidable case in time of the bipolar international relation, as Samuel Huntington had highlighted in his The Clash of Civilization, that the global politics is always about power and the struggle for power. And it reflected upon the media, saying that, the rise of China's economy could pose a threat to the West, and it takes us back to a resemblance scenario of the rivalry in the nation states. And furthermore, thirdly, could that be the result of China's economic growth? Like Zhao Yuezhi have argued that China had gone through a process of reforming and marketizing. It demands its market more than ever in its history. On the one hand, in this pandemic, China's economy is slowly rebooting now, whereas the European and Americans are still in turmoil. China will likely struggle to find enough customers across the West, and the emerging markets elsewhere in the world are simply not large enough to compensate. On the other hand, the outbreak forced the US administration to a re-examination of its pressure on China on both trade and investment reform, hence the conflict. So our approach of doing this research starts with the framing analysis, because as Antoman had defined, framing involves selecting some aspects of a perceived reality and making them more salient in a communicating text. And the frame here are not seen as the universal news value, but a mean of privileging particular understanding of an issue. So in this case, namely, the issue is the blame game that has been reported in China and the US news media. The structure of our study starts with the narrative, which we have already done, the political background, nature of the incident, the fact of this blame game in media, etc. Then it goes to the sampling. We aim to select 6 media, 3 from each side. Our plan is to cover from the very first day of Wuhan's lockdown, 23rd January 2020, to our current date. There are massive data, I have to be honest, so we may have to introduce a certain criteria and conduct a second round of sampling in order to narrow the data down and to be more precise and specific. Then it comes to the framing and the categorizing and the parameter setting. It involves coding, inputting, and the decoding, these kind of stuff, and it will finally landing on the analysis. And because this is an ongoing research, and this is so far we have done, we are still in the stage of sampling. So that will be the end of my presentation, and thank you all. That will be all. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Zhao, for this very interesting presentation. I'm sure we're going to have many questions once this or other presentations are finished. So the discussion session is planned for the end of this plenary part. I would like now to ask Professor Vladimir Ziryanov, Faculty of Sociology, Department of Social Technologies from Moscow State University. Welcome, Professor, and we would love to hear your presentation. Professor is going to present in Russian language, but you'll be able to follow his presentation in English. Thank you. Professor, I would like to ask you just to turn on the microphone. Thank you so much.
Željko, molim vas, pomozite profesor da uključi mikrofon, da pokrene prezentaciju. Željko, uključite vi svoj mikrofon, isključen je kod vas.
Profesor Vladimir, vi možete startovati. Otkrite prezentaciju.
I neka uključi mikrofon.
Нам нужно отключить микрофон.
Все, включил. Да, меня слышно?
Хорошо.
Хорошо, сейчас презентацию.
Вы будете говорить по-русски?
Да.
Я по-английски.
Вот презентация, она на английском.
Хорошо. Я вижу презентацию. Не можете
Видите?
Презентацию.
Видите?
Видите? Не увижу. Хорошо.
Не.
Вы можете читать лекцию.
У меня написано, что мой экран виден другим участникам. Вы презентацию видите?
Вижу презентацию.
А, видите. А я не вижу ее. А как мне сделать, чтобы увидеть самому?
Molim vas profesoru da on treba da gleda svoju prezentaciju, ne nas, Željko. Znači, mi vidimo njegovu prezentaciju, neka je pokrene F5 u full screen, znači neka pokrene slideshow i neka počne prezentaciju. Hvala.
А, через слайд-шоу, или бы самому листать, да? То есть на своем экране самому листать ее, да?
Профессор, вам нужно посмотреть презентацию. Нет участников. F5. Вы идут на F5.
Я не понимаю, как. Скрыть? Нет, не скрыть. Скрыть, наверное, да?
Профессор?
Да.
Нам нужно, хорошо, нам нужно, вы читаете лекцию, я вам помогаю.
Вы можете листать, да, презентацию?
Я вам расскажу, когда вы листаете, когда вы...
А где, то есть я сам буду листать?
Да.
Я сам буду листать. Тогда я не буду видеть вас, я просто буду говорить.
Так точно. Когда не будет, вижу участников и вижу презентацию.
Угу. Хорошо, ну давайте тогда будем начинать так. Я тогда буду просто идти по презентации, ее переключать и говорить.
Точно.
Хорошо. Так, ну я очень рад приветствовать всех на такой интересной конференции. Для меня большая честь присутствовать здесь и предложить вот свой доклад. Значит, глядя на программу, на то, что предложили в широком контексте социологи для обсуждения на этой конференции, я посчитал возможным представить вот этот материал, который презентует рассмотрение современных праздников в таком рыночном контексте, в тех условиях, в которых сейчас мы с вами живем. Значит, феномен праздника очень богат, и на протяжении очень большого длительного времени ученые самых разных направлений гуманитарной науки, социальных наук исследовали этот феномен. Но более всего, наверное, этот феномен был исследован в философских науках, антропологии и культурологии. Гораздо меньше почему-то к нему обращались социологи и представители других направлений науки, в частности, экономисты этим почти не занимались. Но, тем не менее, весь тот багаж, все, что было сделано, оно выработало определенную общую терминологию, которая помогает представителям всех наук на этом поле взаимодействовать. Для того, чтобы показать, насколько широка, так сказать, вот эта сфера, я привел 3 определения, которые не буду повторять, они вот дословно приведены в презентации. Это одно из таких широких масштабных определений, которые были даны Жигульским в книге, которая переведена еще в 1985 году на русский язык, вот, и получила довольно большую популярность в России. Вот. Это определение одного из исследований праздников в историческом их контексте в российский, это профессор Мазаев, вот, где он представляет праздник как возможность коллективного действия, коллективного переживания устремлений, где человек пребывает в гармонии и с собой, и с окружающим миром, как социальным, так и природным. Так, это было второе, это третье. И, наконец, это определение одного из современных исследований праздника, где отражена вот та специфическая особенность праздничной деятельности, которая заключается в том, что, где подчеркивается, что это институционально закрепленное действие, что для этого выделяется определенное время, и где во главе стоят высшие ценности, те ценности, которые переносятся из поколения в поколение, и благодаря этому в течение многих-многих лет праздники остаются в повестке дня общества, то есть они присутствуют всегда в жизни общества. Далее, чтобы оттолкнуться для следующего, так сказать, сюжета, я бы хотел вот обратить ваше внимание на те известные свойства праздников, которые обычно выделяются. Ну, здесь они приведены в формулировках того же Жигульского. Это непрерывность, ритмичность, коллективность и культура-логичность, о которых мы уже в предыдущих определениях немного, так сказать, сказали, что они вот есть, как необходимые свойства праздников. Это здесь, да, теперь это здесь. Это все многообразие праздников, конечно, предполагает, что мы, обращаясь к исследованию, прежде всего пытаемся как-то разобраться в этом многообразии и структурировать его, разделить праздники по каким-то основаниям, по каким-то признакам, чтобы лучше понимать и их природу, и их назначение, и их масштабы, и прочие многочисленные их свойства и признаки, что, собственно говоря, и подтверждается тем, что многие науки изучают эти праздники. Подходя, значит, к этому вопросу с точки зрения социологии, я думаю, что логично было бы, во-первых, структурировать, выделить такую классификацию праздников по социальным институтам, где мы берем в основу ключевые институты, как государство, семья и так далее. Вот. В этом контексте вот и выделяются, ну и многие другие, да, тут просто перечислять нет смысла, все это прекрасно известно. Выделяются определенные праздники, как самые масштабные, так и семейные, да, то есть достаточно большая такая палитра праздников. Вторым подходом, который мог бы выглядеть и дать нам такой социологический подход, это социальные общности. Действительно, все праздники так или иначе локализированы в каких-то общностях. Это и профессиональные, и гендерные, и городские, то есть по месту жительства, по организациям, корпоративные и так далее. То есть это тоже такой логичный, понятный социологический взгляд на праздник. Ну и поскольку цель, значит, этого моего исследования, она заключается в том, чтобы как-то посмотреть на праздник через призму рынка, то логично выделить среди вот этого большого числа праздников те, которые легко поддаются рыночному воздействию, и те, которые поддаются ему с трудом, преодолевая какие-то препятствия или даже не пытаясь преодолевать эти препятствия. Ну вот эти, собственно, препятствия, они говорят о том, что не каждый праздник может быть восприимчив к рынку, не каждый праздник отзывается на рыночные импульсы. Прежде всего, для того, чтобы можно было, вот, кстати, рынку войти в праздничную ткань и каким-то образом ее использовать в своих целях, нужна сокращение вот этой вот, так сказать, вернее так, нужно завуалировать несколько, то есть скрыть истинный смысл по получению прибыли. Нужно так, чтобы этого потребитель не увидел, чтобы он не ощутил, что на самом деле существует какая-то подмена смысла, подмена, так сказать, значения праздника. Вот. В этом смысле очень интересно обратиться к тому же взгляду того же Жигульского, который довольно-таки рано, то есть еще вот в конце 80-х, середине 80-х годов указал на то, что, в общем-то, невозможно правильно оценить праздники без включения в исследование экономического аспекта. Но экономический аспект должен в этом смысле быть истолкован не в обычном, принятом сейчас и как бы редко обсуждаемом контексте, где ставится знак равенства между экономический и рыночный, а в том контексте, который предложил Карл Полани, где разделил вот этот естественный экономический процесс, который не сопряжен с реальными социальными, так сказать, реальной социальной системой, текущей социальной системой, когда на повестке дня главное – это обеспечение населения, обеспечение людей, самих себя, всеми, так сказать, необходимыми продуктами и сферой, так сказать, существования. А вторая сторона, та, которую мы знаем и которая сейчас только и, так сказать, является обсуждаемой, это текущая социальная оболочка или форма экономики, которая приобрела форму рынка. Вот если это разделить, то тогда и в концепции рынка, в понимании рынка тоже выделяются вот такие особенности, где с одной стороны, мы выделяем вот такие абсолютно не рыночные в чистом виде движения, свойства, вот, и абсолютно рыночные, откликающиеся в виде спроса, в виде маркетинговых, так сказать, стимулов и так далее, и так далее. Вот. Кроме этого, еще хотелось бы обратить внимание на то, что природа рынка, она, так сказать, двояка. Она двояка, она имеет двойственную природу. Праздник принадлежит, извините, природа праздника. Праздник принадлежит и миру человека, и миру социальной системы. Причем и сама социальная система демонстрирует тоже определенную двойственность, политическую и экономическую. Уже с давних времен известно, так сказать, мы в истории все это прекрасно знаем, что социальная система любая во все времена эксплуатировала праздники и использовала их для управления обществом, то, что мы сейчас называем социальными технологиями. Вот. И действительно, если мы сейчас признаем, что рынок формирует большую часть жизненных установок, то нельзя не признать, что и теперь он все больше и больше определяет саму сферу праздника, то есть все больше и больше отвечает интересам рынка. Вот, то есть становится фактором, который стимулирует развитие праздничной культуры, становится, так сказать, частью вот той, в празднике мы выделяем не только ту духовную сторону, которая всегда была, так сказать, определяла, собственно, праздник, но и ту, которая выражается в коммерческих подходах к проведению праздника. Вот, это... Ой, извините, это еще здесь, да. Это еще здесь. Да, собственно, ну и можно выделить две, так очень коротко, две, значит, линии, которые, две формы, вернее, в которых существуют нынешние праздники, и формы, в которых эксплуатируются праздники. Это, во-первых, значит, использование всей индустрии праздника, спроса на напитки, на атрибутику и так далее, все, что нужно для проведения праздника, и, соответственно, сезонные спросы в этом плане повышаются, и так называемые праздники событийного характера, то есть ивент-индустрия. Вот. Ну, поскольку время тут у меня уже немного, я бы хотел в завершении вот сказать, что, да, оценка современных праздников в нашей стране, я, в общем-то, весь доклад, как вы понимаете, делаю по России, по нашим особенностям. И вот наши исследования, а их немного, их очень немного, эта тема не очень широко, я бы сказал, совсем не широко, пока исследуется вот как бы в таком масштабном плане. Поэтому есть региональные исследования. Вот исследование социологов новосибирских показало довольно интересные моменты, что есть дифференцированное восприятие праздников, которые нацелены, которые были введены в ткань общественной жизни именно для рыночных целей, таких как там День Валентина, который никогда в России День Святого Валентина никогда не имел места, значит, тот же Хэллоуин. Вот. Люди понимают, что это искусственные конструкты, которые в нашей культурной практике не используются. И, наконец, очень четко происходит разделение, значит, особенно молодежи, ведь это опрос проводился среди молодежи, где они выделяют праздник для себя и праздник для других. И в этом смысле очень четко участие свое в этих праздниках регулируют. Они не склонны включаться в то, что им не нравится, не отвечает их духу, их, ну, как бы сказать, ценностным установкам. Ну и вот, подводя итог, можно только философски заключить, что современные праздники есть определенный такой сложный комплекс, где есть место и праздникам, которые случайно, скажем так, находятся, не проложили себе еще дорогу в общественную жизнь, и праздники, которые определяют наше сознание, нашу жизнь. На этом все.
Спасибо, профессор Владимир. Это была очень интересная презентация. Спасибо за участие.
Dear participants, thank you for your patience. I would like to ask Professor just to turn off the microphone. Maybe, Željko, if you can help me.
Профессор.
Мне надо выключить микрофон.
Так точно.
Сейчас, у меня неактивная это. Закрыть доступ, наверное, сначала, да? Закрыть доступ. Да, теперь выключить микрофон.
Thank you. I would like to apologize for little technical problems and issues that we had, but also to congratulate on successful resolution. Thank you, Professor, for your presentation. And I would like to explain that Professor does not speak English very well, so we accepted the presentation is going to be in Russian language, and the presentation itself was in English. So the next presentation we're going to hear is from Professor Zhou Xiujie from Xiamen University of Technology. The presentation is going to be Study of Immigration, Narratives of Southeast Asian Chinese Documentary. So thank you, Professor.
Thank you very much. Today I talk about the topics about the Chinese. It is not they are born in Chinese, they are ethnic Chinese. The ethnic Chinese was be said by the president of Singapore, called Lee Kuan Yew. And after he received the interview by the American journalist, he said, "We are not Chinese, we are ethnic Chinese, because they are not born in China, but they are some same culture, and they are share the same memories about the China and the Chinese culture." And firstly, I should share my screen and wait.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. I will talk about the immigration narratives of Southeast Asia Chinese documentaries. In the world, the ethnic Chinese are all over the world, but in Southeast Asia, they are the most amount of Chinese ethnic Chinese here, and there are many documentaries about these people. And first of all, I will talk about these two pictures. The first one we all see. Okay, it is coronavirus. Okay, we're suffering a very hard time, no matter in China, also all over the world. And it is also, is everyone know what the bridge called? It is called the Wuhan Yangtze Bridge. It is the bridge is very famous in Wuhan. We all know Wuhan, right? And it is first discovered the first patient with coronavirus, in almost 76 days, Wuhan was shut down because of this virus, and all the residents in Wuhan all sharing the same memory. What's the memories? They all share that they couldn't go out, and they could only stay at home with their families and only eat water, vegetables, meat that served by the government to send to their house, near their house. So they all sharing the same memories. Okay, these two pictures, okay, maybe many people know it. Yeah, it is it is very famous in Sarajevo. It is bloody flower. Okay, it is bloody flower, and it is like the roses. Okay, we all know what is, and it is maybe recall as some hard time, but I think it is one kind of beautiful symbol. It makes us to have more power to face the present, to face the present and face the future. Today I want to talk about this word, cultural trauma. It is first illustrated by some American for American scholars. First of all, we could share some terms. It says collective memory, trauma motive, documentaries. We all have, maybe many people have seen this book called The Image, the Community. Okay, in this book, it say we all share the collective memory, and we become the image, the community. We are not the national, the Chinese. We are not nationally the European. We can be combined with each other by the image, the dreams, maybe. Okay. Today I want to talk about some documentaries about the trauma motive. What's motive? Maybe I could make some illustration. First of all, I will share one word. It said that each social group has its corresponding collective memory through which the group can be condensed and continued. It is said about the collective memory. We can see that although it is very hard time to go through, although it is very sad, but we can all share the same memory, and we can be more strong. And after deal with these things, we can be a community. Okay. In this book, Neil, it is an American scholar. He said in his book that he illustrated some events happened in America, such as the president was murdered and the 911 and so on. Some events are very hard to American, and he illustrated this event, and he said that the collective suffering, sadness, and anger growing out of social disruptions provide the raw materials for the reaction of society as moral community. Okay, and it said that after sharing this bad emotion, it can help us to be a more combined community. And the second word is the cumulate effects of national traumas are of central importance to forging the collective identity of any given group of people. He also thinks that this bad thing, including the sadness, anger, and so on, could help us to realize who we are and realize the identity of ourselves. And the collective memory should need the artifact to record. What's this? It may be the video, maybe the picture, and maybe the book, and so on. And today I talk about the documentaries. Some structural amnesia can lead us to forget many things. But I think these things, these documentaries, these books, and so on, can help us to record these sad things. And like the trauma drama, okay, trauma drama, like the documentaries, it like a story. It talks about one story or several stories, and talk about the many things the filmmaker want to tell us. And after watching these documentaries, it can help us to remember something, to recall something, to restore the memory. And it can help us to build the collective identity. I should illustrate the new immigrants. For example, the Chinese, the ethnic Chinese. First of all, it is the Communist Party of Malaysia. Malaya. It is not Malaysia because it is the former country. It is the former country of Malaysia. Okay, Malaya, it is the former country. It consists of many parts of countries right now, including the Malaysia. Okay, there are several documentaries about this. The first one is I Love Malaya, and the second one is Village People Radio Show, and the third one is The Last Communist. And they all tell about the many bad time the Communist Party of Malaya there, because first, what's the history? Many people may do not understand it, and a few people know about this period of history. It said that Communist Party of Malaya help the government. The government is the British government to defend the Japanese, and after they won the war, and they be exiled by the British government, and they are murdered, and many people be exiled to other countries such as the Thailand. And the radio people, Village People Radio Show talks about the life after they exiled and in Thailand. And I Love Malaya and The Last Communist also tell about the former leader of Communist Party of Malaya. He called Chen Ping. Okay, Chen Ping Champion's parents are Chinese, and he was born in Malaysia. So he is a ethnic Chinese. And these two documentaries all tell about this. Okay. And this one is Absent Without Leave. This documentary is made by the filmmaker. The filmmaker want to find his grandfather, but his grandfather died when his father died. Okay, well, sorry. His grandfather died when his father was very young. So the filmmaker never saw his grandfather, and he interviewed his mother, father, and aunt to find what's the history of his grandfather. And finally, he found that his grandfather is one member of Communist Party of Malaysia. And this period are forgotten by many people, although his son. Okay, the second one is about the left-wingers. There are two documentaries also about it. The first one is the To Singapore with Love, and the second one is the song we sang. And the first one is still banned by Singapore government because this documentary talking about the people who are left-wingers who defend the government and have the different ideas with the government. And finally, they are exiled to other countries such as Thailand, England, and so on. And they still cannot return to the Singapore. Okay, this the To Singapore with Love. The second one is the songs we sang. It is a very romantic documentary because it talks about songs. The Chinese songs are sang by the ethnic Chinese. We all know that the Singapore right now have many high school universities, but they all use the English to teach the students. Okay, although they are ethnic Chinese. So the government want to push the youngers to adapt to the new situation because the Singapore, when they was built, is very weak and they need to survive. So they have to be friends with such as Western countries like Americans, and so on, and they should abandon their mother language. It is very romantic but very sad story. Okay, and the third motive is Homshi Massacre. And the first one is Nanyang Chinese, and the second one is south of the ocean. Many Chinese were murdered in this event, but not far from this event, almost after 5 years, the disasters happens. Many Chinese settled in the place where this big disaster happened. So many people could undergo this very sad time, and they can be more strong. They can be stronger. Okay. The third motive is about the G30. Okay. Maybe in other words, it is the murder in Indonesia. Okay. In the middle, it is the filmmaker. He is a British man, and he find this history no one record. It is about Lee's murder happened in 1965, and he want to record it. He produced 2 documentaries. The first one is The Art of Killing. The second one is The Look of Silence. He used the very interesting methods to show these very sad things. We all see in the first picture that many people are dancing, right? Okay. The second one is the people who was a killer now nearsighted. Maybe he is nearsighted now, and he maybe it means maybe he also look of silence. He also forget many things about his hearing. Okay, the third motive is about the blood and the tears of Chinese workers. There are 2 filmmakers by the same. There are 2 documentaries all made by the same filmmaker. It is the first one is Jade Miners, and the second one is City of Jade. Okay, it is also in the Southeastern Asia, and finally the last one is about the happy time. It may show that the very traditional Chinese seasons, like the spring festivals, and we all share the happy time, and we have many happy things to share. And I want to say that many motive is very sad, and we all share the same collective memories about the sadness, anger, and so on. And what are the different tendencies? I think there are 2. The first one is a compulsive tendency to avoid the situation that resemble the traumatic sense or remind the victim of it. First one, maybe we could be more sad, we share a harder time, and we could be illness. But I think the other tendency is that at the same time we have a equally strong compulsion to repeat the trauma to relieve some aspect of it. I think that after bearing this hard time, we can be stronger, and we can face the other sad things, and we can be one community, and we can be more strong because we have others. Not only, I think we are bearing a very hard time right now because this virus, but I think in the world everyone could help each other, could help each other, and do the things to give other advice, and to share some good things, and we could bear this hard time. And I think the coronavirus is we could fight it, and finally we could win the war. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your presentation. It was very interesting, especially about the identities and documentaries, impact of documentaries, and we don't know much here about
okay. Maybe you can
Malaysia and Singapore identity. So it was very interesting. Thank you so much. So our next lecture is going to be Professor Goran Bašić, Faculty of Social Sciences, Department of Pedagogy and Learning, Linus University, Sweden. I'm sorry if I didn't pronounce it quite well, the name of the university. The topic is about unaccompanied young refugees with war experience in institutional care in Sweden, with Weberian-inspired analysis of power. So thank you, Professor, for joining us, and welcome.
Okay, thank you for invitation to this interesting conference. I tried to find my PowerPoint here for presentation. So I'm following instructions from yesterday, but I'm not successful in that. So please, one moment. Let's see what's happening now. Now, good, okay. Okay, thank you so much for these possibilities. Thank you for presentation of my working place. Title of my presentation is, like I said before, Unaccompanied Young Refugees with War Experience in Institutional Care in Sweden, a Weberian-inspired analysis of power relations in the narratives of young persons. And that this is presentations about one empirical studies and empirical analysis, which is in the way to be published like a scientific article. Time is limited to 15 minutes, so I start directly. The urgency to fly from war and disasters is an actually current issue. War, as it is fought today, often leaves civilians with palpable experiences of armed conflict. They become target for and sometimes participants in acts of the war. Those who have fled such war are forced into an indefining framework that defines a large part of their lives. They often suffer from post-traumatic stress disorders. Max Weber has touched on concept of war and collective violence in his analysis. Many of Weber's key concepts, such as power and exercise of power, are military in origin. Weber analyzed power as a direct action by an actor X that force an actor's Y to act accordingly to X's will, even if the action is contrary to Y's interest or will. Randall Collins' analysis of power, conflict, solidarity, resistance, and status is inspired by Weber's perspective. Collins believes that in our social arena, the exercise of power is always met with resistance from other people and thus generates new conflicts. For Collins, conflict and solidarity are two sides of the same coin. Mobilization against the enemy often leads to solidarity among individuals and groups and vice versa. This study concerns young people who have experienced war, sought asylum in Sweden, and been placed in institutions. Since 2015, more than 35,000 children and young people came to Sweden, unaccompanied by a guardian, referring to Swedish Migration Agency. Most of these unaccompanied children and young people are boys from war-torn country, and most have been placed in residential homes for children and young person in Sweden called HVB homes. Our residential or care homes or HVB homes is a form of institution in Sweden that provide treatment, care, support, or nurturing. HVB homes can, for example, specialize in substance abuse problems or in unaccompanied children. The present study is part of the research project Youth with War Experiences in Institutional Care, a sociological study of young immigrant stigma and social comparison, which was conducted at Linnaeus and Lund University in Sweden and Kochi University in Japan. The focus of present study is to take the perspective of these young people as an empirical point of departure. The aim of this study is to identify or analyze power relations that contribute to the shaping of young people's identities and repertoires of action via stigmatization and social comparison with different references groups. The research question addressed by the study as follows. 1. How are power dynamics rendered in the young people's war narratives? 2. How are power dynamics rendered in the young people escape narratives? And 3, how are power dynamics rendered in the young people narrative concerning the post-war life, in this case, in the Sweden? The study's empirical material includes A. Qualitative-oriented interviews with 6 young people from Afghanistan, Iraq, and Syria who have experienced war, followed by a placement in institutional care in Sweden. B. Field notes taken in conjunction with field work at HVB homes. And C. Online media reporting on the category of young people who have experienced war, sought asylum in Sweden, and been placed in institution. The empirical material was collected during the informant's early period in Sweden, a period that may be viewed as an effort to a new and better life. War violence and the exercise of power appear to live on as a presence in their narratives, even if not always in an accepted manner. From time to time, the interviews are emotionally charged. They touch up painful memories, such as how their entire family and all the members of the village were forced to fly from Taliban attacks, or how their best friend was killed in a suicide attack. The narratives also deal with imprisoned friends and relatives who never return, the death of the father or the sister, a difficult journey to Sweden, and various professional actors in Sweden. On the same situation, these actors are recalled as empathic people attempting to assist the youths, but in other cases, they are described as wielder of power who mistrust them and contribute to replacing negative emotion, social comparison, degradation, stigmatization, and equality. The young people's wartime narrative describe war as the practical exercise of power, comparing and relating peaceful interaction, that means in which there is not exercise of power, to wartime interaction based on the exercise of power. These narratives are examples of post-war symbol production. In their narratives, young people seem to dramatize the significance of the war interactions. This dramatization can be interpreted as the actualization of special social relationships between actors who view themselves as distanced from other actors in other groupings, but with who they have a bare minimum of routine interaction. War interaction can therefore be identified as expression of social identity, inasmuch as they are based on contrasting oneself from the others. In this war context, the interactive creation and contrast and comparison in relation to other actors reveals various categories of actors in narratives, such as a victim, a perpetrator, and hero. Like war itself, escape from the war zone is recounted as a practical exercise of power. The youth's narrative produces an image of the mortified and stigmatized self that limits and hinders any possibility of attaining their aspirational identities. The new situation as a refugee is marked by disruptive peaceful interaction. That means disruptive interaction not associated with the exercise of power that emerge and disappear in interactive islands of peaceful interaction in the youth's narrative. Interaction involving wartime exercise of power, peaceful interaction, and disruptive peaceful interaction can be understood as the narrative core of war and peace. It can be grasped as some kind of recounted moral code that is beyond any real control and that can conjure social order from the narrator's lives in the described situation. Young people describe their existence in Sweden as one of uncertainty. They do not know if they will be permitted to remain in Sweden and stay in school, or if they will see their parents again. Despite the uncertainty, the young people appreciate Sweden and especially the staff at their HVB homes and school. They describe engaged staff who, besides helping to plan daily life and assisting with school, also facilitate their contact with other public authorities. The discount conflict in narratives fight and fear highlighted in their narratives seem to result from the explicit and implicit exercise of power by professional actors and are occasionally directed verbally against appointed guardians, as well as the Swedish Migration Agency and social service staff. The material also provides an image of stigmatizing social climate in Sweden and the exercise of power in the form of long and frustrating period of waiting, seemingly reproducing adverse emotions, social comparison, degradation, stigmatization, and inequality. And finally, conclusion of the study. By presenting this analysis, the study or article contributes to the development of knowledge regarding the following. 1. Dealing with narratives, combining wartime experiences and youth in institutional relationships. 2. The significance of these narratives to the creation of and recreation of the young people's identities. And 3. Alternative approach to analyzing relatively expected traumatic perspectives. The study also contributes to the development of knowledge regarding the questions of how social functions in relations to the young people wartime experience, their escape from war, and their peacetime existence, in this case in Sweden. Thank you so much for your attention and participation.
Dear Professor, thank you for your presentation and thank you for participation at our conference. Our next presenter is supposed to be Professor Pavlovna Krivet Alla Pavlovna from Belgrade National Research University. Unfortunately, Professor did not register with our link to the conference. So with this presentation, we will finish this plenary part, and we are going to start a discussion. I would like to inform you that we don't have much time, unfortunately, because our next session is due. So I would ask you to keep your questions short. Thank you so much. Please, do you have any questions for our presenters? Or if presenters have any questions to other presenters, or...
I have questions for Professor Zhao, first participant.
Yes, yes, please.
Can I speak?
Yes, of course. Yes, please.
In your presentation, we use a blame game term. What is the new? This is my comment. What is the new? That is always a part of the great power game. Rivalry between United States and China, it is something what is occurrence in history many times. United States is only remaining superpower after Cold War. China is challenger. That is normal thing in history, especially in relations between great powers. My question: what do you expect in relations between Beijing and White House in the future, especially after presidential election in United States this year?
Professor Budimir, unfortunately, Professor Joe had to leave because he had his sister's wedding party, and it's around 5 or 6 o'clock in China now. But I wrote the question, and we are going to send the question to China to Professor, and he will get back to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes, please, Professor. Professor Savanovic. Professor, can you please turn on your microphone?
Profesore Savanoviću, ako ne čujemo vas, nažalost, imate u gornjem desnom ćošku ikonicu za chat, možete otkucati vaše pitanje ako ne možete sad aktivirate mikrofon. Nažalost, profesore, ne čujemo vas. Hajde, molim vas ovako, ukoliko koristite Google Chrome, kako je preporučeno, u gornjem lijevom ćošku gdje imate meet.google.com adresu, obično ima ovaj jedan kao katančić, pored moguće da ima i da ste blokirali dozvolu u mikrofonu, odnosno browseru da koristi vaš mikrofon. Kliknite tu i vidite da li imate išta blokirano. Ukoliko imate, zakačite da dozvoljavate korištenje mikrofona.
I apologize, we have few technical problems again with the microphone, but maybe we can start with the next questions. So are there any other questions, please? While waiting, I will have a question for Professor Joe. regarding identities, but actually in different direction. I'm wondering how Chinese people see identity of people in Southeast Asia, in Malaysia and Singapore, because I know you use the word Huaqiao for Chinese that are not born in China. So do you perceive them also as a Chinese or as a foreigners, like Waiboren? And can you please,
Yes, I have turned on. Okay, thank you for your questions. And I think it is a complex questions because in different countries, different ethnic Chinese have different identities. Because in the Southeastern Asia, there are 11 countries, and in different countries, they have a different amount of Chinese, ethnic Chinese, and they share a different identity. But I can illustrate some examples, like the ethnic Chinese in Malaysia. In Malaysia, there are many ethnic Chinese here. It is the second large amount of ethnic Chinese in Southeast Asia. The first one is in Indonesia, and many people share the same culture and some traditional Chinese seasons in Malaysia for the ethnic Chinese in Malaysia Chinese, because they have many Chinese schools for the youngs, for the high school, and but they don't have the universities. As the documentary called "The Songs We Sang," it restore the histories about the only one overseas Chinese universities was closed by the government, and now they are not Chinese universities overseas because the people in local, they have to fight many things. So I think in Singapore, the ethnic Chinese think they are the people of Singapore, not the people of ethnic Chinese, or not the people of China. Okay, I think that's the difference. Although they are very close country, Singapore and Malaysia, but the ethnic Chinese share a different identity. And in Indonesia, I think it is a more complex situation, because I have said former, because they have bear many bad things, almost the year of 1998. If you search in Google or other places, you search in the YouTube, you have seen many bad things, and many ethnic Chinese were murdered in the big disasters by maybe by the residents in the countries or others. But I think it's very bad things for the ethnic Chinese in Malaysia to bear. So in Malaysia, so in Indonesia, many ethnic Chinese think they are ethnic Chinese, but they're frightened. They're frightened to say. They're frightened to record, and they're frightened to make documentaries. I think so. Many different countries in Southeast Asia share the identities. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I will just read once again a question from Professor Budimir to Professor Zhao so that we can record it. And as I said, from Borislav Vukovic. So I will just, and then we will address this question to Professor, and we will get back to you with the answer. So can you elaborate more on your discourse analysis? What is your main context framing? You actually will decode the blame game with keywords as China is guilty for USA media, and USA are blaming us for media from China. Secondly, what kind of media you will sample? You mentioned 6 media outlets, but are there televisions or other media industries? So this is the question from our Professor Borislav Vukojević, and we will address this question to Professor Zhao. And I would even suggest maybe to connect these 2 professors so it may result in future with some kind of joint research or joint paper. So thank you so much. So are there any other questions?
Yes, I have also a question.
Sorry.
Yeah. Is it okay? Can I speak now?
Yes, please.
Okay, great. So thank you. I have a question for Professor Goran Bašić. Have you planned to do a comparative analysis or comparative study with children, or, well, they are now grown-ups, from former Yugoslavia countries who came to Sweden and were institutionalized in a way?
Thank you, Angela, for your question. My answer is that this kind of research is finished, or maybe this is wrong to tell to finish, because new questions coming whole time during the research. But anyway, one part of my previous research is about refugees from ex-Yugoslavia. For example, concentration camps, prisoners from Omarska camp, Karatem camp, which was refugees in Sweden, and questions about interaction rituals during trauma in the concentration camps, but even questions about reconciliation after war and the possibility to live together, questions about ideal victim in this context, and so on. So there is pretty much publicated, but for me, questions about different kinds of the refugee and trauma connected to this category of the people is an interesting subject, and probably in the future my team going to work with comparing studies from different contexts. The Bosnian is one example, Rwanda another, this last migration refugees Greece in Europe, next, and so on.
Thank you so much. Unfortunately, we run out of time. We need to finish, and participants are going to receive the links for the next session. I would like to thank all presenters for this great event and for helping our university and our faculty to even be more visible in international community. 赵博士，谢谢您，都是非常好，感谢您的合作，再见。Ja ću vas sad zamoliti, dakle, da se isključite i da preuzmete linkove za sljedeće sesije. Hvala vam puno na učešću.